So like I said, the tuners are kind of an optional step, but I did upgrade the tuners for this guitar, and I'll show you what I'll be using instead. And these tuners are actually locking tuners from a brand called Safu, I think they're pronounced. I'll put a picture at some point. There's the logo here. And as you can see, they're a 1:18 gear ratio. I got these on Amazon. They're from a brand I've never heard of before, but the design seems pretty sound. And you can see, first of all, that they have this short-ish post. Pull the other tuner up. So you can see there's really only room on this one for like one wrap. And the way that these are designed is you'll pull the string more or less taut, and then using this piece here, once you put the string through and pull it taut, you'll lock it in. There's like a little clamping mechanism in here, and hopefully that can show, see a little gap. So as you tighten this, it pushes the string up to lock it into place. And once it's locked into place, that's the locking mechanism, then you can just turn it enough to get it to full pitch. So this will actually eliminate having string windings, and on top of that, it'll lock the string in place physically, mechanically, so that you won't have to worry about the string slipping out of the tuner. So this design looks pretty sound. They were about 30 bucks on Amazon, and I've been kind of curious on them, and they went on sale. I think they were like 27 or 28. So I picked them up figuring if I didn't like them, I could return them. And if I did like them, great. They seem pretty decent, so I'm actually going to keep these. But that is an upgrade that I'm going to be doing to this guitar. Again, sort of optional because of the locking nut mechanism, but for me, it's going to make string changes really easy. And it's going to be just another extra nicety to have this much smoother tuning experience versus the other one where there's like a little bit of wiggling. Just doesn't feel, I mean, yeah, you can tighten this screw a bit, but it's not going to really ever be a great tuner. Definitely not as bad as the other ones I showcased in an earlier video, but these are, just these for 30 bucks are a big step up, so I'm happy with this. Now, another upgrade I might do is these knobs for the pots, because I am going to be upgrading the pots, and usually with knobs like this, the ones that I've bought in the past, there's like a little set screw, and these actually don't have it, so they're actually meant to fit that sort of knurled split shaft design. But because we are going to be replacing, bring the electronics harness over here, because we're going to be replacing these, because I don't really like these cheapo pots, and especially the volume pot, we're going to be doing something kind of special, but I'll show that later. Because we're going to replace these, I'm not sure that these are going to be a perfect snug fit, the new pots, with this dome. So I might actually get a new dome knob, or a set of new dome knobs. They usually come in a pack of 2, and I'll need 2. We'll see. It might not be necessary, but it's just good to keep in mind. Not a super important one, though. Now, the last part is actually the bridge. And when I say the bridge, I mean the bridge and the locking nut. Now, this is the bridge that comes with this guitar kit. And first of all, you'll see it's a licensed under Floyd Rose patents, not Pat's, patents. It's a licensed Floyd bridge. And there's tons of licensed Floyds that are really good. And there's also really, really bad ones that are really cheap. And this is one of those cheap ones. And I knew going into getting this guitar kit that I was going to come with a poorly designed bridge. You never know what you're going to get in terms of how bad it's going to be. But I've had good experiences with licensed Floyds, and I've had really bad experiences. And this looks very similar to one that I've gotten on a previous guitar. It's the same basic design as a regular Floyd Rose. It's got the knife edges here and here. It's got the intonation screw holes here. It's got the string lock blocks and the saddles. Same basic feature set, right? And I'm going to pull up the bridge that I'm upgrading to in just a little bit to show you some of the differences. But this, I think, is one of the components that I really do believe is worth upgrading before you even put together the guitar, because this, in correlation with that locking nut, is going to make such a big difference in your tuning stability and the longevity of your instrument. If you have a poorly performing bridge, not only will you not stay in tune, but because of how delicate that floating tremolo can be, once one string goes even the tiniest bit out of tune, the other ones all go out of tune too. That's what makes this kind of a finicky system for a lot of people, is that you really need to balance that string versus spring tension. And I'll show you in a separate video what differences there are between this bridge and the one we're going to be upgrading to, and why it can be a really good step to basically chuck this and get a quote-unquote real licensed Floyd or a real Floyd. I didn't end up going with an original Floyd Rose because I have one of those on my guitar. It's really nice, but they're very expensive now. I think the one I was looking at was like $300, and that's just not really... It wouldn't be worth the amount of money just to get an original Floyd Rose. So I ended up looking at a couple other options, and I ended up getting a Goto one, which we'll go over again in another video. But this is a piece that we're going to be upgrading. Some other considerations I've had are these strap buttons. It's not really necessary, but I really do like the Dunlop strap lock system, so we might upgrade to a set of those at some point. The springs, these can be an issue. So the thing about springs is that cheaply made springs might not have the same level of quality as really good springs. And the reason for that is not just the type of metal used, but also how it's created. If you get springs that are not properly hardened, or they're made of an inferiorly sourced metal, in other words, if they're made from cheaper metal, they're not going to hold their tension over time as well as really well-made springs from something like spring steel that are properly heat treated and hardened. So if you were to go to, if you were to go to eBay or Amazon and get the cheapest set of springs for a guitar tremolo system, and then compare that to the highest quality springs, even like the Fender American springs they sell, you can get at Guitar Center, there will be a difference over time, especially in terms of how they perform and how they hold up. So what's going to happen, especially with this floating tremolo system, like I said, is that if these springs lose their tension over time, eventually that bridge might start to pull forward, because the string tension shouldn't really change over time, especially if you're changing strings. But you shouldn't really have to change your springs once you put them in the guitar. They should be there for a long time. I don't really have a good feeling that these springs will hold up to the test of time, so we are probably going to upgrade those at some point. We do have these springs for the pickup height. I'm not worried about those necessarily. Truss rod cover, a few screws and washers. I think these are for the pots and the locking nut clamps as well. We have the neck plate, the neck mounting screws here, and the ferrules as well. And we have the posts for the Floyd Rose style bridge. So we'll probably take those out as well. There's the bushings, washers, and screws for the tuners. A couple screws for like the humbucker mounting rings, and the screws for the tremolo claw, and these other two screws, which I think are for the output jack. So that's what we have in terms of hardware. We also do have this tremolo claw with the wire pre-soldered on it. The soldering job actually doesn't look too terrible. And it has this little quick connector. Now, it doesn't have the plastic outer piece that usually goes over this quick connector. And I'll show you what this plugs into. Let's grab that electronics harness again. So right about here, there is what I assume is a ground wire. And we have this kind of male to female connection now. Why they did not supply a plastic outer housing like this, even if it's just like a one cable housing. I think that would have been nice. However, I'm gonna redo the wiring for this guitar regardless, so I'm probably gonna chuck all this wire in the trash anyway. The quick connectors can be nice if you're constantly swapping out components, or in this case, if they're trying to make it easier to assemble. But I have a soldering station. I'm very comfortable doing soldering on my guitar, so I'm not worried about that aspect personally. For you, that might be a consideration. If you're thinking about putting together one of these guitar kits, it's a nice to have. It's not necessary, but it certainly lowers the learning curve for putting together a guitar if you've never done it before, if you've never worked on a guitar. So again, we have these two humbuckers here, a single coil here. We'll probably upgrade these pickups at some point. I have some Seymour Duncans lying around that would fit in this, and they're also black and they're pretty great sounding. But I actually am planning on winding my own pickup, so we have some supplies for that as well. There's another bag here, which just comes with your tremolo arm, a terrible cheap cable. I might actually just like cut the end off one of them and use that for like multimeter testing or something. We have a couple different Allen keys. We have this really small one here, which I'm not even entirely sure what that goes to. Oh, one nice thing they include, which I think is a nice touch, is they actually pre-cut some copper foil tape, which is really cool. I actually have a roll of copper foil tape, but this I will definitely use. That's a great way to reduce noise in a guitar, so that's a nice thing to include in that. I'm not sure if that will be enough for the kind of shielding that I like to do, but we'll see. It might be good. At the very least, it comes at no additional charge. I'm cool with it. So yeah, that's a quick overview of some of the hardware in this guitar kit. And like I said, there's going to be a few upgrades that we do out the gate. There's going to be maybe one or two at some point in the future that we do, but a lot of it is pretty standard stuff. I mean, we have these two cavity covers. One project that I'm going to attempt to do is see if I can make sure that these are recessed. I believe, if I remember correctly, on the guitar body right now, there are screw holes and there are cavities routed out, but there's not an edge where you can recess this into the guitar body. So it's kind of sitting on top right now. That's something I would like to address for both of these. But that's for the future. We don't have to worry about that right now. So yeah, that's the hardware and electronics quick run through of some of the upgrades that I'm thinking of doing.